just to for the Department of Education, just to give a little bit of students and teachers guidance on what was going to be a paper and what a paper was going to look like. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're just going to have a quick read of the instructions at the front of the paper. You probably won't read these on the day, so we're going to read them now together. Okay, so the first thing, you're going to be told how many questions are on the exam paper. Okay, kind of simple enough stuff. This one is actually important. So questions do not necessarily carry equal marks. You can have question 1 worth 30 marks and question 5 worth 5 marks, right? It probably won't be as unequal as that, but that can be the case, right? So you shouldn't spend equal time on every question because there's not equal marks for every question. Another important one, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this later on in the class. Only write your answers in black or blue pen. You can bring a red pen or a highlighter into the exam, but it is only for underlining and when you're actually reading through the questions, right? You should never, ever answer a question in pencil, red pen, green pen, or whatever other color pen you normally write in. You should only ever write your answers in blue or black. Your pencil then you can use for graphs and diagrams only. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about this later on, but make sure that if you bring in a pencil, as you should, it's sharpened, so you don't need to be sharpening it during the exam, and also you're bringing in a rubber or an eraser and a ruler as well, particularly for the graphs. This has changed in the last couple of years. Your exam booklet is going to be scanned and your work will be corrected virtually. So, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. So this has changed in the last couple of years. So your exam booklet is going to be scanned, which means that what would happen before is your paper would be physically sent to a maths teacher somewhere in Ireland, and they would correct it on paper and send it back to the Department of Education, and then your grade would be sent out to you. That's not the case anymore. What happens now is your paper is scanned, and then a link to that paper is sent to your examiner, and they correct it on their laptop at home. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second as well, because it just kind of restricts what part of the paper you can write on. Write your answers in the booklet. Okay. Straightforward enough. Your formula and tables booklet, that's the log tables. That will be given to you in the actual junior cert exam. Check with your teacher before your pre or before your mocks if you will be given one of those. If you're not given a set of log tables in your pre-exam, you need to bring your own. Okay. Going into your exam, going to your pre without a set of log tables, if you're not going to be given them in the exam, is like going in without a calculator, lads. You need to have a set of log tables with you, provided that you're not going to be given them. You may lose marks if your solutions do not include supporting work. Again, I'll speak a little bit more about that later on, and the rest of it is not as important. Okay, why won't that seem out? Don't worry. Right, so back to the question that I initially asked you about 2 or 3 minutes ago, which is, how do we read a math question? So first things first, look up at the top of the question here. It says suggested maximum time 5 minutes. Okay, so you are going to bring a watch into your exam, or at least I highly encourage you to bring a watch into your exam. There should be a clock on the wall, but the clocks can be inaccurate, right? Better not to risk it. Better not to risk it. Better to bring a watch into your exam. So I'm looking at the time here, right? And it is 16:15. So what I'm going to do is just at the top of my paper, I'm going to write 16:20. Okay, so that's 5 minutes on from 16:15, which is the time right now. So I know that if I look down at my watch and I'm gone past this time and I'm still on question 1, I need to move on, right? That's something that every single one of you should do, right? Write down the absolute latest time that you can finish a question at the top of the page. So that if you look down your watch, you see, okay, I've spent a minute too long on this question. Let me just scribble something down. Let me move on, right? There's no point spending too much time on a question. You're going to pick up maybe 1 or 2 marks extra but that's going to cost you maybe 15 or 20 marks later down the line. I see a load of questions after coming in here, so I'll answer them in a minute. Okay, then the second thing, the kind of second option that you have in your exam is to read each question individually and answer them individually, or do you read the whole paper from start to finish and then go back to answer? There's no right answer here. My preference and my advice to you is to read each question, then answer each question, forget about it, move on to the next question, read that, answer it, forget about it, move on to the next question. The reason I say that is not a lot of students actually do the reading part of the exam very, very well. A lot of students just kind of scan the paper as opposed to actually reading it. If you're one of those students and you're not sure whether you're making the best use of time by reading the paper start to finish, I would encourage you to just read each question one by one and then answer. That's my preference. If you prefer to do it the other way, that's fine too, right? It's up to you. It's one of those things that's a matter of personal choice. By the way, the suggested maximum time, that includes reading time. Okay, so question one in your exam is likely to be something like this, something that is very easy. Okay, you can do these on your calculator. So we've been asked to find the value of each of the following. So look, you can do these on your calculator with me now. So 372. One second, let me set up my calculator correctly now. So it's 372 plus 119. And that answer there is 491. Okay, right? Fairly straightforward. 3.4 by 7. Again, you can use a calculator for all of these, lads. That's going to be 23.8. Now, I would suggest doing a little bit of rough work for this one here. So 3 by 7 minus 5. So remember, always do the brackets first. So that's going to be 3 by 7 minus 5, and 7 minus 5 is 2. So we have 3 by 2, and that's 6. Or alternatively, you can just put that straight into your calculator, but just be very careful that you do put in the brackets. Question B then is to shade in 3/4 of the area of the shape below. Of each shape below, I should say. The shapes are labeled A and B. Okay, so look, again, this is fairly straightforward. I'm just going to count up how many sectors we have in A. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so we have 12 sectors. So 3/4 of 12. That's going to be 9. Okay, so I'm going to shade in 9 sectors. They don't have to be particularly artistic. Something like that is grand. For the second one there, I only have 4 sectors. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm just going to shade in 3 of them. Okay, and then the last question here is to write the numbers 3, 9, and 25 into the 3 empty boxes below to make this mathematical statement true. This actually isn't the easiest question, but given part A and B, look, they probably had to throw in something that's a little bit more challenging. So what I would say here is just to try a load of different ones. So I'm going to try 3 over 5 plus 9 over 25. And I'm going to do that in my calculator. So 3 over 5 plus 9 over 25. And do I get 24 over 25? Yeah, I do. Great. Okay, so I can write in 3 over 5 is equal to 9 over 25. And that does in fact give me 24 over 25 on my calculator there. If I hadn't gotten that one, then I just try a different one. So I might do 9 over 5 plus 3 over 25. All right. Trial and error there, to be honest. That's probably the best way of doing that. Anyone have any questions there, lads? Let me try and fix the Zoom here. Why it's not working. It's great. Okay, I have a few questions after coming in. Is this being recorded? Yes, this class is being recorded. You'll be sent a link just after the end of the class. Can you use a mix of black and blue pen? A mix of black and blue pen? Yes, you can. Absolutely. There's no rules around that. So a couple of good questions there after coming in on the watch thing. So no smart watches, no Apple watches, no fitness trackers, right? It has to be like a dumb watch per se. You can use a digital watch. Uh, I have a Casio watch here that I bought when I was about to go into my junior cert exams. I think it cost me €10 and it's still telling the correct time today. So look, the digital watches are actually, I think, better. But you can use whatever time of watch you want. Um, will there be a lot of algebra in the mock exam? Yes, but there will be a lot of algebra in every maths exam. So yeah. What is a log table? A log table is like the set of formulas. I'll show it to you actually, 1 second. Right, it opens for me. Nope, doesn't want to open. Okay, grand. I'll try and get that log tables open for you in a second. I'll do one more try. Here we go. Okay. The log tables is that thing. Looks like that. And it has about 100 pages of all different formulas that you can use. Only maybe 10 or 12 pages are actually relevant for you guys at junior cert level. But it's just kind of like a cheat sheet that will be given to you during your exam. If you don't have a set of these log tables, lads, I really mean it. Get a set now, like in the next 2 days. Going into your exams without knowing what formulas are on what pages is crazy stuff. A few more questions there. Can I use a light blue pen? Mm, I suppose you can if you want, but I would say probably just use a plain, like, use one of these fellas, the plain blue Bic pens, and you won't cause yourself any hassle there. Yes, James, I will go a tiny bit slower when I'm getting you guys to work ahead of me. For question 2, my calculator says the answer is 199/5. Did I get that one wrong? Oh, yes, sorry, Dulce, that's just giving your answer as a fraction instead of a decimal. That's perfectly fine as well. What happens if you mess up a sum? I'll come back to that question. No, it's a good question. Aaron, when adding a fraction, is it just top by top, bottom by bottom? Not quite, Aaron, but we'll speak about that a little bit later on as well. And the pencil or light blue pen. So for this part here, you shouldn't answer in pencil. Pencils are only for graphs. Okay, so someone asked there, what happens if you end up writing outside the box? So like if I was to write here, write 16.3 by, I don't know, whatever, right? That will still be picked up because what's not included here is on your actual exam, you'll see up in the top left, top right, and bottom left and bottom right corners, you'll have tiny little black corners. So that's the outline of where the scanning software will finish, right? So if you write inside those like corners, you'll be fine. Um your answer will still be picked up. But if you end up writing over here for whatever reason, okay, then your answer won't be picked up. So just make sure that you're writing inside the little corners. No, you won't be given, sorry, you will be given your log tables in the real exam, but it depends on what school you're in. But most schools require that you bring your own log tables for the pre-exam, but clear that with your teachers first. Okay. So, what I'm going to get you guys to do is I'm going to get you to have a go at a few questions here. Um, kind of exam style or exam conditions almost. So this one here is the first one that I'm going to get you to have a go at. So unfortunately, I used to be able to zoom out and you'd be able to see the whole paper at once, but we're going to have to break this up into little blocks. Okay, and that's fine as well. So this has a suggested maximum time of 10 minutes. Okay, so it's now 16:26. So what am I going to do? I'm going to write it up in the top of the page, 16:36. So I know that, look, if I'm not out of here by 16:36, I need to kind of get my hurry on. I can't show you all the question at once, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to break this up into little chunks. Uh, there's an A part, a B part, and a C part, and a D part here actually, and an E part. Okay, so there's 5 parts. There's 10 minutes, so I'm gonna give you 2 minutes per part. Okay, so 2 minutes starting now to answer A. Uh, no, Laura, this is the ordinary level class. So the higher level class is also going on at the moment. Um, what you can do is you can email info@breakthroughmaths.ie and they will send you the link to the higher level class. If you're okay, cool. You can just do it. There's a lot of people in the class, so I won't be able to correct each person individually, I'm afraid. Okay, so you've just about a minute left. Okay, so look, ideally it'd probably be done by now, but you have about 15 seconds to go. Okay, so that's about 2 minutes flat. Now look, I ideally I would give you the full 10 minutes and you'd go ahead and you do the whole question. But I can't show you everything at once, I'm afraid. Okay, so work out the total cost of the ingredients. Well, I suppose we better actually read this question first of all. No harm to bring a highlighter or a red pen into your exam. Preferably a red pen actually, because you don't need to be putting on the cap and taking off the cap and putting on the cap and taking on off the cap with a red pen, because that stuff all takes time. But I'm going to use a highlighter here just because I have it opened already. So Tom is baking for a school bake sale. He buys the following ingredients. Okay. Work out the total cost. Okay. So total cost means we're just going to add up all the cost of the ingredients here. So we're going to have 1.22 plus 3.75 plus 1.7. Again, right? This is calculator work. So go to your calculator and you can just type that in. And that amounts to 6.67. And we better put in a euro sign for our units. So we have €6 and 67 cents. Okay. Now, Tom pays for the ingredients with a €20 note. How much change should he get? Okay, again, let's take out the highlighter. He pays for the ingredients, €20 note. How much change should he get? So we're going to work out the difference between what he pays and the amount of money that he gave to the shopkeeper. So he gave the shopkeeper 20 euros. He paid €6 and 67 cents. So he ended up getting €13 and 33 cents in change. Right? Okay, few questions left coming in there. What's the major difference between higher level and ordinary level? Um, in terms of the actual course, there's not a whole pile of difference. The the stuff that you cover for our second and third year in higher level and ordinary level is actually almost identical. The difference is the exam is a lot more challenging at higher level versus ordinary level. This type of question here, for example, where it's just adding up numbers on your calculator, that would never be asked at higher level. You'd be much more likely to see questions on, like in algebra, we'll say, like there's still some of them and we'll see them now in a second, but questions in algebra on, we'll say, solving for x or factorizing or simultaneous equations, right? These are all things that are really common at higher level that do come up at ordinary level, but there's I suppose a few more easier standard questions at ordinary level. The actual course is very similar, but the exam is just that bit more challenging. Yes, this is the SEC sample paper. If I didn't say that to you at the start of the class, I meant to. Um, I think I did actually. Yeah, so this is the SEC sample paper. So you can see if it's in your exam paper, exam papers, I should say. Someone's after saying it's on page 74. I'm not sure what brand of exam papers that is. But if you have it, you can take a look. Okay. So I'm gonna give you another 2 minutes here. Starting. Yeah, starting now. So 2 minutes, off you go. While you're working there, I just have a few questions that I'm going to answer in the background. Keep working away. Someone was asking, is it common to do ordinary level? I'm not actually 100% sure on the proportion of people who do higher versus ordinary level at junior cert because I'm not teaching junior cert this year. Um, at leaving cert level, I think it's about 80-20. So about 80% do higher level, about 20% do ordinary level. I'd say it'd be a little bit more skewed towards higher level at junior cert. So maybe if I was to guess, I'd say maybe 85% to higher, maybe 15% to ordinary level. And then someone else asked, can you tell us the marks for each question going along? Ordinary level, or sorry, ordinarily, I would, yes, but this paper actually doesn't have a marking scheme because it's only a sample paper. So there's no marks, or I don't know how many marks would be given for each question. I can take a guess, but I actually don't know for sure. So I'm not going to. Someone else is asking if you do ordinary level for junior cert, can you do higher level for leaving cert? As far as I know, I don't think so. But you should check that with your school's guidance counselor. Um, I when I was doing it anyway, I know for sure that you couldn't, but it might have changed in the last couple of years. Check with your school's guidance counselor, I would say. I would also kind of discourage that because you will find it very, very challenging to go from ordinary level back to higher level. Okay, right, let's take a look here. So Tom makes cookies with the ingredients. Again, let's just get our highlighter right here. Tom makes cookies with the ingredients. Tom's recipe gives the quantities of each ingredient for 12 cookies and 24 cookies. Some of the quantities are shown in the table below. Find the two missing values. Okay, so when Tom makes 12 cookies, he needs 2 eggs. So when Tom makes 24 cookies, he needs 4 eggs, right? So we're doubling here. There's a doubling relationship. to make 12 cookies, he needs 2 eggs. To make 24 cookies, he needs 4 eggs. So if he needs 50 ml of milk, 50 mils of milk to make 12 cookies, well, he's going to need 100 milliliters of milk to make 24 cookies. And if he needs 180 grams of butter to make 24 cookies, he's going to need half that to make half the number of cookies. So he's going to need 90 grams of butter to make 12 cookies. Right? So fairly straightforward there, I would say. Nothing too challenging so far. Have we any questions? The maths there was actually quite straightforward, but the issue was kind of interpreting the question there. It was kind of a bit of an abstract question. Okay, so again, 2 minutes. And you know what? I'll give you actually 4 minutes to, yeah, I'll give you 4 minutes to answer these two parts here. So off you go, 4 minutes. There are a few questions after coming in there, but I kind of talked through the last question, which I feel kind of distracted some people. So I will answer those questions once you guys are done. Okay, so I'd encourage you, if you're not already on question D, to move on to it. Okay, so about a minute left. I'm being fairly generous with time here. The suggested maximum time is like the absolute maximum you can spend on a question. Okay, so start to finish up, you have about 30 seconds. Okay. I just had one question come in there on the last part. Someone was asking me how I got the 90 here. So when I'm making 24 cookies, I'm essentially making two batches of 12 cookies, right? I'm making two sets of 12 cookies. So if I need 180 grams of butter to make two sets of cookies, I'm going to need 90 grams of butter to make of butter to make 12 cookies. So if I need 180 grams to make two sets of cookies, I need 90 grams to make one set of cookies. Does that make sense? Hadi, I think, was asking that question. Okay. I had a few more general questions come in as well, but I'm just going to answer those after I've done these two. Right, so Tom co puts cookies in the oven at 10:50 a.m. He checks the oven later. At what time does he check? Or he checks the oven 15 minutes later. At what time does he check the oven? Um, this is just kind of a standard adding time question. So he puts the cookies in the oven at 10:50. He adds 15 minutes. Okay, so the way I like to do this actually is I like to break it up into 10 minutes and then 5 minutes, right? The reason I like to do that is because it's 10 minutes from 10:50 until 11, and then it's 5 minutes until 11:05 a.m. Okay, so another reasonably straightforward question, right? Um, then a question on volume. So Tom also bakes a cake. His tin is in the shape of a cylinder. We're given the dimensions and we're asked to work out the volume of Tom's cake tin. Okay, and they have given us the formula here for the volume of the cake tin. But this is also in the log tables, so they don't necessarily have to give you this. They've been quite kind to give us this, I would say. It is also in the log tables on page 13, I think. If you have us in the log tables, you can check. But that formula is there as well. Okay, so there are three things in this formula. Okay, so V is what we're going to find. Pi is a number. Okay, pi is a number and it's 3.14. Okay, it's just a special number that we use when we're talking about circles. So cylinder has a circle on top, so we use pi. Now, the second thing is the radius, or I should say. And or is the radius. And then the third thing, well, that thing is squared. We'll come on to that in a second. And then the third thing is h, and h is the height. Someone's saying page 10 of the logbooks. Okay. So what I recommend doing is I actually recommend writing down for questions like these, where you're going to be subbing into a formula. I recommend writing down what you're going to sub in before you actually go and sub it in. Okay, so there's two things for us to sub in here. We need to sub in a radius and we need to sub in a height. So or is going to be our radius. And which one do we think is going to be the radius here? Well, there's only two numbers we're given. So do we think the radius is going to be 10 or do we think the radius is going to be 4? Okay, good stuff, right? The radius is going to be 10. And then the height, well, the height is the other one then, and the height then is 4. So we can sub in to this formula. Now, we're going to leave the pi as pi because we're asked to give our answer in terms of pi. So we'll actually end up with this pi still there by the end of the question. And we'll have the radius squared, so that's going to be 10 squared. And then that's going to be multiplied by 4. So we have pi by 10 squared is 100 by 4. So that answer is going to be 400 pi. So it's a little bit more of a challenging question there compared to the other. Okay. Right. I had a few questions there come in. I'm going to plug that in actually. So someone was asking, uh, if you're good at ordinary level, would you recommend to stick to it? I suppose it kind of depends on what general grades you're getting. Also, at this stage of the year, I'd imagine it's too late to go back to higher level, but you can discuss with your teacher. Your teacher will have a good sense of whether they think you should go to higher level or stick to ordinary level. Uh, so I had two questions here on whether you should just write down the answer if you should show your workings. Okay, so it's a good question, right? So just to fill you in, someone was asking, what sort of marks do you get for the answer, and what sort of marks do you get for the workings? I'm going to come on to this towards the end of the class, but only about 10% of the marks actually go to the answer. The other 90% of the marks go for everything leading up to the answer. So so for this example, filling into the formula correctly, the workings out here, right? All this stuff, that's 90% of the marks. So it's only 10% of the marks goes to the answer. Now, it gets a bit more complicated than that because there's a little line in the marking scheme that says if correct answer is given, award full marks. So if you just write down here nothing and you just write down 400 pi, you will get full marks, right? Unquestionably, the marker, your examiner, will give you full marks. The issue is that if you make a mistake, let's say you forgot to square here and you ended up with 40 pi, you get 0. So it's a bit of a gamble when you're writing down the answer because you're either going to get full marks or you're going to get nothing. Whereas if you show your workings all the way down, even if you make a mistake, you can still get 90% of the marks. So that's why I always say, and probably why all your teachers say as well, always show your workings, because it's like an insurance policy that says if you make a mistake somewhere along the line, you can still get a lot of marks. Do we leave the answer in terms of pi? Yes, we do. If we get to put AM or PM, for the last question there, if we forget to put AM or PM, do we get marks removed? You probably could get a mark removed, but it would be a harsh examiner to do that. But they would be within their rights, so you'd be better off to put it in. Will there be breaks? Yes, we'll take a little 5 minute, probably not even 5 minutes. We're going to take a 3 minute break after I've gone through the last question here. Am I a Wolves fan? I'm not. No, I'm a Liverpool fan. Thank God. Thank God I'm not a Wolves fan. Is the answer not 1, 2, 5, 6? So Agnes, that would be if we were answering in terms of not pi. So if we were just giving our answer as a decimal. But we're asked to give our answer in terms of pi, so it's 400 pi is our answer. So we want to have this pi symbol with us at the end. Few more questions here. Yes, I will tell you what pages the log tables or what pages different formulas are on the log tables. Do I use 3.14 for pi? No, because we're answering in terms of pi here. So when it says to give your answer in terms of pi, that means you don't sub in the 3.14. You can ask questions anyway in the Q&A or the chat, I don't mind. What if you showed your workings but you still got it wrong? That's fine. You can still get 90% of the marks. What do you do if you don't have a log table? Lads, get a set of log tables. It's on your book list at the start of the year. Every single year, you need a set of log tables. Yeah, Ava, that's completely fine as well. Okay, I think that's all the questions there. If I missed your question, you still want to answer it, you can put it in the chat again. Okay, last one then. Again, You probably have 2 minutes for this one. So off you go. Sorry, just one last quick one. Tig was asking, are the formulas always at the start of the question like it was here? No, no. Sometimes they will be, but you also need to be able to find those formulas in the log tables. I'll actually show you that once you're done here. Hadi, yes, I will go back in 2 minutes, or less than a minute now, actually. Okay, so ideally you'll be done by now, but you still have maybe 15 seconds. Okay, right. So again, reading the question, the recipe says that the cake should be baked at a temperature 210 degrees. Tom thinks that this is too hot, so he reduces the temperature by 10 degrees. Uh, Work out the temperature that Tom uses. Okay, well, let's work out what 10% of that temperature is. So 10% of 210 degrees, that's 0 0.1. So 10% has a decimal of 0 0.1 by 210. And that works out to be 21. So he reduces the temperature by 21 degrees. So he originally starts with 210 degrees. He reduces it by 21 degrees. So he ends up with uh, a temperature of 189 degrees. All right. Someone's asking, how do you get percent on the new Casio calculator? I don't actually think you can. I think you have to convert it to a decimal. As far as I know, there's no way of getting percentages. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. How do you do 10% not over one? Do you not do 10%? Yes, so Hadi as well. Alternatively, you could do, if you wanted, you could do uh 10 over 100, and that would still get you the same answer. That's just the same thing here as a decimal. Okay, and then someone's asking me as well to go back to this question here. Hadi, do you have any questions on that? Or is it just you want to take it down? Okay, cool. Right, we're going to take a short little 2.5 minute break. So let's um we are going to start back at 16:58. Okay, so 2.5 minutes. Stand up, walk around, and we'll start back then. Okay, you don't even need to leave the call. Okay. And I have a few questions I think to answer while we're on break. What time does this class end at? We'll do probably another maybe 40 minutes after we come back. Hattie, I'll go back to that question and you can take it down. Or to be honest, I would say just take a screenshot, but I'll go back to when we start back. No, I can't see you guys. Okay, is that all the questions? So, grand. Starting back in just over a minute. So. Right, starting back again. Hopefully you're all still with me. Someone keeps asking me where do I think Wolves will finish? Uh, say just above the relegation zone. That'll be my guess anyway. Uh, Maybe you will go down though. If you lose Cunha, you'll probably go down. What happens after the mocks? Back to Matt. So we'll leave the football talk now. What happens after the mocks slash prees? I'm guessing the whole junior cert course will be finished before the prees. I'm assuming you mean here with breakthrough. Uh, so we won't with breakthrough. We're not finished the course until like late April, early May. So you'll still be doing stuff right up to then. If you're talking about school, again, a lot of schools aren't done the course by the priest. Um, so it's still kind of learning all the way through. And I think that was all the questions. Okay. who was it? Harry. Yes, I'll go back to the eggs and flour question in a second. But I just want to go through a few bits and pieces here first. Okay. So I'll just talk you through a little bit of exam technique. So I suppose probably the best piece of exam technique that I have for you is the can you see my screen actually? Yeah, you can. Brilliant. Okay, so the best piece of exam technique I have for you is what I was talking earlier about the time. So when you start a question, look at your watch, say, okay, it's exactly 5 o'clock now. Suggested maximum time is 10 minutes. So I know at 10 past 5, I have to be done this question. If I'm not done it by that stage, I'm just going to move on. Scribble down something in each box. Just try and pick up as many marks as you can. But just move on. That's probably the best piece I have. Just more generally, then, I know it's simple, but you wouldn't believe the number of students that don't do this. Attempt every question, right? Every single question that's on your paper should have something written for it. You would not believe how many marks you will get for just writing down random things that you're like, oh, this is just kind of a random guess now. But you might get 5 marks out of 10. You might get 6 marks out of 10. Marks are there to be picked up. The next one kind of follows on from this, right? So there will come a time, especially in your pre-exam, probably in your junior cert as well, but definitely in your pre. There will come a time where you're sitting down and you're looking at a question and you're going, oh my God, I have no idea what to do. At that moment, your natural instinct is just going to be right. Oh, panic stations. I'm just going to give up here. There's no point. Forget about getting the question right. If you're at that stage where you're like, I literally have no idea what to do, forget about getting the question right. From that point on, your goal should be to maximize the number of marks that you get. As I say, forget getting the question right, maximize your marks. So that just means writing down 1 or 2 lines per question. Even if you're like, no, look, this is definitely wrong. Maybe it might be wrong, but also maybe you might pick up a few marks. Okay, so just get something down on paper, even if you don't know how to do it. I've spoken about that one already. Show your workings. 90% of marks are independent of the answer. Okay, so this is particularly applicable for leaving cert, because the junior cert has a less concrete marking scheme. The leaving cert is like very firm. Doing this, you get this number of marks. For this, you get this number of marks. The junior cert is kind of a little bit more airy fairy in terms of marking scheme. But this rule kind of still holds. So only about 10% of the marks are actually for getting the answer on the page. The other 90% is everything leading up to that. So your technique, whether what you're writing is relevant, all that stuff, that's where the bulk of the mark goes. This one, right? It drives me mad. Do not leave your exam early, lads. Do not leave the exam early. I can promise you, you will pick up an extra few marks. Even if you stay for the 10 minutes before the end or before the end of the exam, do not leave the exam hall early. Generally, right, there's 2 reasons that students will leave the exam hall. The first one is to have an excuse, right? So you every year a student will come to me and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't do as well as I hoped in the pre's, but I left the exam hall early." And it's almost like an excuse. Say, "Oh, I didn't do as well as I'd hoped, but that's because I left the exam hall early." That's not a valid excuse, lads. Not a valid excuse at all. Can you imagine if a surgeon walked out halfway through surgery and said, "Oh, but sure, it doesn't count. Sure, I left the surgery early." Right? You'd laugh at him. You think he's off the wall, or they're off the wall. It's not a valid excuse to leave early. Um, the second reason people leave, or the second reason I see people leaving, there's other reasons as well, of course, but it's because in your exams, your mind is under a lot of stress and it tends to catastrophize. Catastrophize. Is that the word? Yeah, I think it is. Catastrophize. There we go. That's the one. And you're struggling with a question and your brain goes, "Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm no good at maths. Oh, sure, like if I do this now, if I don't do well in this now, I'm gonna get in trouble at home and oh, I just need to get out of here, right?" Look, that can happen. And I'm a lot more forgiving of that. But you also need to learn to manage stress and manage your emotions. Um, there was a very, very famous snooker player called Ronnie O'Sullivan. You can look this up on YouTube. But during a match, I think it was 2006, he literally just walked out. It would be like we were talking about football earlier. It would be like if Messi just walked off in the middle of the match, right? Just missed a shot or something and just left the pitch, right? So it can happen, right? It doesn't mean that if you walk out and your mind just gets the better of you, that you're not going to amount to anything, because it can happen to the best sports people in the world. But you need to learn to manage that stress, manage that emotion. Um, Second, the last thing then is if you make a mistake, put a single line through it, you can still get marks. So on your marking scheme or on the exam, on your exam paper, you will be marked on everything that you've written, regardless of if you think it's correct or not. So don't try and scribble over stuff. Do not use Tipp-Ex, lads. You shouldn't bring Tipp-Ex into your exam. But if you make a mistake or you think you've made a mistake, put a single line through it and move on. Okay? Try and fix the mistake if you can. But don't be scribbling over stuff. You can still get marks even if it's has a line through it. Okay. So before your exam, you should, and I've spoken about these things already, know what formulas are in the log tables and what pages they're on. It's going to be a stressful situation. So do the best you can to prepare yourself by doing the easy things. So that means, right, if you're doing an area and volume question, and you know the question is to find the area of a circle. You know, okay, area of a circle, that's on this page of the log tables. If you're doing a um if you're doing a line question, that means that you know the line is on page 21, I think it is, and you're finding the slope of the line. Okay, so you go to page 21, you find the formula for the slope of the line, and it just takes away that moment of stress where you're like, oh, is that one in the log tables now? I should have a look. And then you're scrolling through pages and you miss it, and it all takes time, lads. So just know what formulas are in the log tables, know what pages they're on, and then know how to use the formulas as well. Second thing then is know how to use your calculator. So I've a Casio FX85 GTX. The best calculator in the world is the calculator that you've used, right? So there's no point, and I see it sometimes, lads. People will go to Tesco or Eason's the day before their exam and they get a brand new shiny calculator. Don't, right? Don't do that because you won't have been practiced on that calculator. So all the little things like where all the different buttons are, it's all going to be new to you, and you don't want to be figuring that stuff out in the day. So these trig functions, sine, cos, and tan, we will see them in an example a little bit later on. Square roots, cube roots, powers, change your answer from fraction to decimal. You need to be able to do all those things on your calculator at the click of a button. You don't want to be having to think about these things during your exam. Okay, good bit of advice for you. And I actually haven't heard anyone else give this advice before. So this is my original pointers to you. Um, the night before your exam, have a bag, and in that bag, you should only put what you'll be bringing into the exam. So I use I think you can actually see it in the background there. You can just there. I have a super value bag, right? It's just a shopping bag, and every exam that I go into, I just put in a few pens, calculator, whatever it is that I'm going to be bringing into the exam. And it just takes away that moment of panic when you're outside the exam hall before you go in and you're going, right, I have my pencil case, I have my calculator. I'll talk about pencil case in a second, actually. I have my calculator, and then you think, yeah, I have everything now. And then you go into the exam and you look down and, oh, sure, ruler's not there, right? At least then you have your checklist here. You can take a screenshot of it if you want. You have your checklist here and you know, okay, right, grand. These things are all going to be in my bag. So when I go into the exam hall, or where I'm standing outside the exam hall, I can just take those things out, stuff the paper bag in there, stuff the plastic bag into my school bag, and I know for sure I have everything. Um, I heavily advise not bringing a pencil case into the exam. The reason I advise not bringing a pencil case into the exam is because you'll think that you have something in there and you won't check. Whereas if you have a separate bag filled with just things that you know you're going to need, then you definitely know you have everything. So look, a lot of the time you'll bring your pencil case into the exam and you'll think, oh, before you go in, you'll think, oh yeah, I have a ruler or I have a eraser in my pencil case. And then you get into the exam and there's no eraser there. So I say, don't bring a pencil case into the exam. Take what you need out of your pencil case and put that in just in the plastic bag. Um, Look, to be honest, you're probably not going to gain any cool points for bringing a plastic bag or a super value bag or a Dunn Stores bag or whatever it is to your exam, but you have the rest of your life to look cool. In that bag, then I say these are kind of the general things you need. If you've any special requirements, you can add or take away from this as you please. So two blue or black pens, in case one of them runs out. If you have a pencil, well, you will have a pencil. Make sure it's sharpened. Make sure it's paired, ready to go, so you don't have to be pairing it during the exam. Again, that's all time. That's not going to gain you any marks. And then because you have a pencil, you're going to be using that for graphs. So make sure you have a ruler and a razor with you as well. Calculator, I've spoken about that already, and log tables, I've spoken about that already. You will definitely for sure be given log tables in your actual junior cert exam. Check with your school, check with your teacher whether you'll be given them in your pre-exam. Make sure as well, look, I'll just say it again because it is important. Calculator that you know how to use, right? Make sure it's not a brand new calculator. I would say probably if you want to get a new calculator before June, now is the time to be getting it. Make sure you use the one you're familiar with in your pre-exam though. A watch, right? A simple digital watch is fine. As I say, if you missed it at the start of the class, like I've a Casio watch that I bought when I was doing my junior cert. I think it cost me €10 and it's still telling the time to the day. So it's an investment. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. I strongly prefer using a watch versus using the clock in your exam center, because if you're sitting down the back of the class, the clock is far away. You can't really be too accurate. Okay, so if you're trying to say the maximum time for this question is 7 minutes, it's going to hard to tell when 7 minutes have elapsed, right? Whereas if you have a watch, right, straight away you can see, okay, it's 17:12 here now at the moment, so 17:19, that's when I need to be gone. Water, small 500 ml bottle is fine. You don't want to be drinking loads and loads of water because you'll need to go to the bathroom. And again, that's time that you're not going to get any marks for. So small bottle of water you can sip on. The dietitians and doctors will probably give out to me for this, but personally, I'm not saying you should. Personally, I find sipping on a fizzy drink to be quite helpful during exams. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that's what I do. I know there's health consequences to doing that. Sipping on a fizzy drink, just kind of, especially because the sugar keeps you, I suppose, wired the whole time. And then a small, I have brackets here, quiet snack. So you don't want to be munching down on some Doritos in the middle of your exam. So something small, something quiet that you can open without disturbing all the people around you during your exam. Okay. Any questions on anything I've said so far? Good few questions actually. Okay, sorry, I missed all those. How many hours a week is valid to be studying maths? It depends on what your goals are and it depends on what you've done so far. So if you've done loads of work in second and third year so far, you're going to require a little bit less than someone who's only really starting to take maths seriously now. It also depends on what grade you're hoping to get. If you want to get a merit, for example, you'll need a little bit less work than someone who's looking for a distinction. There's no simple answer. No, we're not going to get through the whole booklet today. This is only a once-off class. Why can't you use Tipex for the exam? Because, let me go backwards here. Okay. Why can't you use Tipex? Because you can still get marks even if what you've written you don't think is correct. So it's not that you can't use Tipex, it's that I heavily advise that you shouldn't use Tipex. Am I going over any algebra? Yes, I will be going over some algebra in a minute. Yeah, Mia has a great piece of advice here. Just get new batteries for your calculator instead of actually going ahead and buying a new calculator. That's a good one, actually. I hadn't thought of that. Saves the environment as well. Is food allowed? In the actual exam, yes. Again, check with your school on what's allowed during pre-exams, but I would imagine that it will be allowed, yes. And then I had a few more as well coming in the Q&A, so let me check those. I can't actually see the Q&A at the moment, lads. So I will answer those after. If you can use the chat function for the moment, because I can't see the Q&A questions right now. Okay, so something I say every year when it comes to this time and when the pre's are happening or just about to happen. To be honest, the actual grade that you get back on your pre-exam paper is almost irrelevant, right? You shouldn't really think about that grade on the exam paper that you get back in 2 or 3 weeks at all. But students still do. The reason I say that is the result on your free paper is not important. The preparation that you do for the prees is important. Actually sitting your prees is important because it gets you used to being in the exam hall, getting used to your timings, all that stuff, right? So that stuff is important. The actual result you get back on paper, look, I wouldn't hyperfixate on it, but students still tend to do it. So look, I'm just going to give you a little bit of feedback on how I think you should respond to your results. So first of all, if you're happy with your result in math, well done, first of all, right? You're at a good place. I suppose the first thing you should do is you should reconsider your goals. So if you're looking for a merit and you end up getting a higher merit in your prees, should you think to yourself, okay, well, maybe I'm not being as ambitious as I should be here. Maybe I should try and uh, blow up my goals a small bit or try and keep my goals um, in line with my results. I suppose, yeah, it's kind of a rare position to be in. But look, if you're overachieving right now, then I would actually advise to reevaluate your goals. The second thing you can do is look not just at your maths paper, but look at your other exams as well. So let's say you're really happy with your maths paper. Let's say you're after getting your higher merit, you only wanted a merit, you're really happy. Well, look at your other exams. Did you also do as well as you'd hoped in those? If you did, great. Again, you're in a fantastic place. Well done. If you're doing really well in maths, but you're not quite so happy with how you're doing all the subjects, then maybe start to redistribute your time. So take some of the time that you've been spending with maths and start to spend it on those other subjects. I'm not saying stop studying maths. You'll still need to keep on top of things. But if you're not happy with your other subjects, take some time away from maths, put them towards your other subjects. If you're not happy with your result, then okay. So again, the first thing, or maybe not the first thing you can do, but something you can think about is, am I being too ambitious? Let's say you want to get a distinction, you only end up getting a merit in your, or I say only, you end up getting a merit. A merit is still quite a good result. So let's say you want to get a distinction, you end up getting a merit in your piece. Should you reevaluate your goals? Should you say, okay, I'm being too ambitious here. I'm doing as much as I can while still balancing life and my other subjects and everything going on as well. And I just don't think I can achieve that distinction anymore. Maybe I should look to achieve a higher merit instead, right? That's fine, right? Reevaluate your goals. And it's a good time of the year to do that as well. The second thing you should do is look at the process, right? So as I say, the result of your pre is almost irrelevant. The process though is much more relevant. So you should think to yourself, okay, am I actually happy with the work that I've put in up till now? When you went into third year, I'm sure you said to yourself, okay, well, I'm gonna do this much study a week. Are you happy with the amount of study that you've done so far? If you're not, why is that? Okay? Is there something that's getting in the way of you starting to study? Or of you achieving as much study as you'd hoped for? I would encourage you to just try something. So look, maybe it's your phone, right? Maybe you say that you're going to study and you end up scrolling on TikTok for an hour and a half instead. Okay? Maybe you just say to your parents, right, mom, dad, whoever is at home looking after you, just say, keep hold of this phone for an hour and I'm going to go and study. If it's you're being distracted, can you move where you study? Can you change it up? Can you keep yourself fresh and enthusiastic about study? Right? So I would encourage you, if you're not happy with the work that you've done so far, if you're not happy with the process, just try some stuff. Something will work eventually. Okay? Um, Another option if you're not happy with your result is an option is grinds. So and the breakthrough is an option in terms of grinds. So these classes, our classes run Monday to Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30. They're with a teacher called David Langley. He couldn't be with you today because he's teaching the higher level class at the moment. And he takes those classes every Monday to Thursday every week. So there's two topics covered a week. So the first topic is covered on Monday and Tuesday. It'll be, I don't know, let's say statistics. The second topic then is completely different, and that's covered Wednesday and Thursday, and that might be, I don't know, trigonometry. Okay. When you sign up to the classes, you also get all the recordings since the beginning of the year. So if there's a particular topic that you're struggling with, and David's covered it already, you will be able to go back and watch those recordings. All right. Right. That's kind of all the advice that I had to share with you today. Does anyone have any questions on that? I had a few questions there. Uh, yes, I do have questions. I thought you had to stay until the end of the exam. Why did they let you leave early, and how early did they let you leave? Rebecca, it sounds like you're very enthusiastic about leaving early after just being told that you shouldn't. Um, it most schools actually don't allow you to leave early during your prees. But during the actual exam, you can. I think you can leave after. I think it's after 30 minutes and before the last 10. But as I say, right, that shouldn't be an option for you guys. Stay for the whole thing. I'm studying with algebra and applied arithmetic, so financial maths at the moment. Have you any advice that could help you with these topics? Yeah, Katie, the advice you've heard loads of times before. But just keep trying questions, right? I know it's challenging when you're struggling, but eventually it will click. Aaron says I have a problem where I'll say I'll study later and then I'll end up not studying. This is actually a really common issue, and something that I've read recently actually is so there's a great book. It's called Atomic Habits. And something the author advises when starting a new habit is to say you're going to do it for 5 minutes. Okay, so if you want to study, let's say you have these lofty goals and you say you're going to study for an hour a day. Say, okay, I'm going to start by 5 minutes, and then actually just do 5 minutes of study that day, right? So if sit down at your desk, do 5 minutes of study, and then leave it. The next day, do 10 minutes, and then actually do 10 minutes, right? Don't try and do 15 or 20. Just say you're going to do 10 minutes, and then the next day, do 15, right? Because a lot of the time, we see this big, like, monster in front of us, and we don't want to do anything because it's just too intimidating. So break it down, right? Break it into small, manageable chunks, and it will seem a lot less intimidating then. How do you keep studying consistently? Discipline, lads. Discipline. Just be honest with yourself. Say, okay, right, I'm going to do 20 minutes of study right now. That's the simplest way of doing it. Uh, are we done? No, we're not done yet. I'm going to go back and do a small bit more maths just for maybe like 20 minutes, and then we'll finish up. Um, so we'll try and finish around 20 to. I had a few questions there on the Q&A as well that I missed out on. Um, where were they? Are we going to? Yes, we're going to be going back to exam papers. Don't worry. Uh, do you need a math set? Yes. That's actually something I should have put on the list there. Are you allowed to eat during the exam? During the actual exam, yes, but check with your school before your prees. School said you need your own log tables. Yes, bring your own log tables, definitely. Um, are all the classes free? No. So I think it's, as far as I'm aware, it's 149 euro a month. And then you get 4 classes a week for that. What topics should I start with for prees? Algebra and financial maths or applied arithmetic. Those are the big ones. What snacks would you recommend? Whatever you like, but just make sure that you're not going to be disturbing the people around you. And make sure it's like a quiet snack that you can open without disturbing. Okay, right. Let's get back into the maths. So, and someone was asking me, to take that down so you can take whoever that was. You can take a quick screenshot of that there. So it's 149 euro a month, lads. And for that, you get access to 16 classes a month. So 4 every week. Okay. Right, the next one is a financial maths one. Where is it? No, that's not it. There was a question that I saw that I wanted you guys to have a go at. I can find it here. No, okay, maybe it's a different exam paper. Okay, I thought there was a financial maths one there, but there's not. Okay, so what we're going to do instead is we're going to do a statistics question. So I'll get you to have a crack here. So again, 5 minutes, right? It's 17:26 now. So suggested maximum time is 5 minutes. So I'm going to say that I need to be out of here by 17:31. So I'll give you 5 minutes. Off you go. Have a crack. About 20 minutes left, lads. Yes, you've just about a minute left, lads. Okay, right. So look, I suppose one of the drawbacks of doing a paper like this, is it's a sample paper. So the department here are trying to say, okay, so like the first couple of questions that we did, that's like as easy as the questions can get, and these last two questions that we're going to try our hand at, they're like as difficult as the questions can get at ordinary level. Um, so this is a stats question. So first of all, we've been asked to work out the median of Merriam's numbers. Now, the median is the middle piece of data. So if we order all the numbers from smallest to biggest, the median is the piece of data that is half to the left and half to the right, or half less than it or half bigger than it, right? So here we've been told that Merriam has six numbers, and we know five of them. But we also know that A is bigger than 20. So look, 20 is bigger than 19, or bigger than or equal to 20. So we know that A is bigger than 19, right? So this is ordered here. So the median then, what has half the data to the left and half the data to the right? Well, then the median would be three numbers to the left and three numbers to the right. So if we have a even number of pieces of data, like we do here, so we have six pieces of data here, the median is the average of the middle two. So the median here is 12 plus 18 over 2. So the median is 30 over 2. So the median is 15. So the median is the middle piece of data. Half the data to the left, half the data to the right. Someone was asking me what the n here means. That stands for a natural number. So it just means that it's a positive whole number, right? So it's like a counting number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to infinity. Those are the natural numbers. Where did I get the two? I got the two because I'm finding the average of these two numbers. Okay, so we know how to find an average, right? Um, Add up the numbers, divide by the number of numbers. No, the median's not 12, because 12 only has, well, it has one, two pieces of data to the left, but it has one, two, three pieces of data to the right. Now, the second one here, so part B, Miriam works out the mean of the six numbers. She then increases the value of A by 60. What will this do to the mean of the six numbers? Okay, well, what we should do here is we should try and work out the mean originally, the average originally, and then work out what happens when we increase the value of A by 60. Okay, well, the original, the mean there is going to be 11 plus, so we add up all the numbers, divide by the number of numbers. So it's going to be 11 plus 11 plus 12 plus 18 plus 19 plus A. Okay, and we're going to divide that by 6. So we can add up all those numbers. So 11 plus 11 plus 12 plus 18 plus 19. Now we can't add A, of course, because A is just a letter at the moment. We don't know exactly what number it is. So the original mean is going to be 71 plus A over 6. Now the new mean then, what we get when she increases the value of A by 60, well, that will be 11 plus 11 plus 12 plus 18 plus 19 plus, and now we're going to have A and then another 60. And that's all going to be divided again by 6. Because we don't have a new number 60, right? We're just increasing A by 60. And when we get that, when we add up all those numbers, we'll have 131 divided by 6, or 131 plus A divided by 6. So what will this increase due to the mean of the six numbers? Well, and I'm writing it outside the box here, which I shouldn't do. Um, but this will increase the mean. Okay, so how do we know that it's going to increase the mean? Well, the 6 is the same, the A is the same, but the 71 and the 131 have changed. So the 131 is obviously bigger than the 71. So the mean will increase here when we increase the value of A by 60. Where did I get the plus 60 from? Because the question told me she increases the value of A by 60. That's going to be A plus 60. What is A? So A is just like a number that we don't know, right? It's kind of like X, except we're actually not going to find it. Um, it's just given to us in the question. So it's a number that's bigger than 20. We know that it's a bigger number, bigger or equal to 20, but we don't know what it was. And this is actually quite a common problem in I suppose real world applications. Because so just to give you a little bit of background, so I study mathematics in college or maths in college. So I suppose now as I'm becoming more familiar with real world problems, this is actually a very, very common problem where you have a missing piece of data. So it's I actually like this question. It's difficult, but I like it because it's very like applied. Uh, why did I write A twice? Because I'm comparing what the mean was before she added 60 to A versus the mean was after versus what the mean was after she added 60 to A. Okay. Okay. I yeah, I'm just gonna get you to do the last one here. So, and then I'll leave you go after that. So again, 5 minutes. It's a really tough question, lads. It is a really tough question. But I think you're able for it. So look, again, looking at the time, 17:39. So I know that I need to be out of here by 17:43. Okay, look, I actually do really want you to do this in your exams. Just it, it, it kind of takes away the guesswork of, oh, how long have I been at this question? Oh, it's been too long. Has it been too long? Maybe I should go back. Look, no, right. Just make it easier on yourselves. Um, yeah. So 5 minutes. Off you go. And yes, this is the last question. I'll go back to that question in a second. But someone's asked me there to let you know uh what pages where you'd be most likely to use in the log tables. So this isn't all the formulas that you'll need, but this is the bulk of the formulas that you'll need. So your area and volume formulas will be on pages 8 and 10. Your line formulas will be on page 18. So that's things like slope of a line, distance between 2 points, length of a line, uh, equation of a line, all that stuff is on page 18. And then there's actually only one formula that you'll need here, but that's for interest rates, and that's on page 30. There are other formulas that you'll use as well, but those are the main ones. Okay, I think you've another, yeah, just over a minute. Sorry, I have the question back up for you now. You've just over a minute left, lads. Okay, let's take a look. So the first one here is a fairly bog standard factorizing quadratics question. That being said, it is something that students have trouble with across the board every year, right up to leaving cert higher level. So there are loads of ways you can do it. The way that I use is the guide number method, but there's also the box method and the X method that you can use to factorize here. So with the guide number method, what we do is we take the number in front of the x squared. Now, when there's no number in front of the x squared, it's 1. It's implied that it's 1, right? Because 1 times x squared is x squared. 1 times anything is just itself. So what we do is we take the number in front of the x squared, which in this case is 1. We take the number at the end, which is -3, and we multiply those together, and that gives their guide number. So that's going to be 1 by -3, and that's -3. And what I want to do now is I want to find a pair of numbers that will multiply to give -3 and add to give -2. So a pair of numbers that will multiply to give -3 and add to give -2, or add to give +2, sorry, I should say. And that pair of numbers is going to be +3 and -1. So I'm looking for a pair of numbers that will multiply to give -3. So 3 by -1 is -3. And will add to give +2. And 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay? So what I can do now is I can replace. So I'll have x squared plus 2x minus 3. What I can do is I can replace the 2x with 3 minus 1. So I'll have x squared, or sorry, I can replace the 2 with 3 minus 1. So I'll have plus 3x minus x minus 3. Now, I'm going to do a factorizing by highest common factor. I'm actually going to squinch this down because I'm going to run out of room. Or I'll actually move it over here. I'll move this up. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to factorize by highest common factor, or factorize by grouping, I should say. And we'll see factorizing by grouping now again in a second. Or actually, maybe we won't because I'm running way over time here. Okay, so Factorizative grouping is when we have four terms. So we have x squared, 3x, minus x, and minus 3. So we have four terms. We break it up into two groups of two terms. So I'm going to break it up into x plus 3 and minus x minus 3. And then I factorize by highest common factor in each of those groups. So factorizing by highest common factor in x squared plus 3x, that's going to give me a highest common factor of x. And taking that out, I have an x plus 3. And my highest common factor here is minus 1. So that will also give me an x plus 3. Factorizing that fully now, I have x minus 1, and I have x plus 3. Tough question, lads, and I had to rush through it there because I am way over time. But you'll have plenty of examples of that in your book. Okay, so then filling into the answer, that is going to be x minus 1 and x plus 3. I'm not even going to have time to go over the last one, I'm afraid, because I said at the latest I'd have you out of here by quarter to, and we're gone past quarter to. I said I'd actually have you out of here by before that, and I'm not. So sorry about that. Okay, so any last questions for me before we go? Grand. Okay, so what I'm going to send you over is um a a link to just a short little quiz that you can do just to, I suppose, give you a sense of where you're at in terms of being set up for your prees. So I think, look, it should take you maybe 20 minutes. The sooner you can do it, the better. And it's just like yeah, it's just a quiz, and you'll get feedback on it. Based on your answers and stuff. All right. Someone's asked me, is it not plus 2? Yeah, so I'm after changing the plus 2 to plus 3 minus 1. So the 2x became plus 3x minus 1x. Because it's kind of like factorizing is kind of like going backwards. In maths, we're like normally trying to go forwards, trying to get to x. Factorizing is kind of going backwards. All right, lads, I'll leave you go. So hopefully you found that somewhat useful. Look, if you are doing prees in the next couple of weeks, best luck with them. I'm sure you'll all fly through them anyway. I see some familiar faces from classes last year, Cal and Mia. It's great to see you guys again. I don't see you as much anymore, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's always nice to have a student come back. All right. Okay, so look, that's all the best now for the coming weeks and into June as well. I will be doing another masterclass for you guys. Definitely one, probably two or three before then. So look, until then, lads, I'll see you in a bit. It's long and full and safe. All right, bye now.